Howdy all, it's Nathan. I've got a couple questions about my table and then saw some comments as far as running wiring, things like that. Which I did some comment stuff here, so I figured I'd do a quick video. And again, thanks for the positive comments on the table that I built. But this is Bob. I name everything Bob, so it was a fitting little name when I came up with it, and it's just going to stick around. And then, of course, I think that was my first actual carving on this machine, so it worked out pretty well. I'm in the middle of cleaning out my garage, so we'll ignore any mess you see. So anyway, table is obviously MDF. Got legs, got my caster so I can move it around, got my tools hanging up down there. The tabletop itself, double layer of MDF. Did run T-track everywhere. Well, not everywhere, but obviously right through here. This is a jig set up to locate a piece of wood to make guitar necks, just so it's always in the same place. This part actually lifts out entirely. Unless I put down the phone here to be able to do it though. So this will lift out entirely. I have a vacuum table right down there. It gives me an extra, of course, 3/4 inches of drop. Got a couple other jigs I can drop into that thing for some of the stuff that I make over and over again, so it will fit in right there, zigzagging in the exact same place. So it's a big hollow spot, so I don't have to relocate anything really, just plug in the numbers and let it go into it. The gantry, also made out of MDF. Pretty much everything's MDF and some 2x4s. Started this just because I wanted a way to run my wiring, keep it up out of the way from the router itself. And then as I was building it, decided this was actually large enough, so I ran PVC all the way through the back of my desk collection, so everything's contained in there. Comes out here. Can't remember where I found this really floppy hose, but it works out really well. Wire management, because we're using hollow tubes, is actually really simple in this one compared to some of the other stuff I've worked on. So everything on the x-axis just runs right back through that tube there. The y-axis is running through that tube over there. I had done originally not the cable chain, but the measuring tape style cable chain, pretty much in 3 locations when I first had it wired, and originally had the control panel and the box right up here, but I kept running into it with my leg, and it was just a matter of time till I broke it. And then I built the gantry, so it gave me a much better place to do it. But I used to have my wiring running right through here, which you can see holes there. I had another one running right through there. Once I got to this point, and I put up some sides mainly to control any extra dust when it kicks out, it all gets contained on the table, stays shooting out everywhere. That contained most of the wiring in this direction. And I did just 3D print a little barrier there, and that took care of the rest of it. So wiring does not flop out that direction, doesn't flop out this direction. It works out pretty well. Then everything runs to the back of the table. My running the jackpot board and fluid NC, of course, with the tablet there, so that's my board. All the wiring goes up behind that. That holds my tablet when everything is running, so it's completely out of the way. It's still freely accessible and about head level. Dust collection, Z independent, of course, because hooking it up to your actual routers is bouncing up and down just makes for an ineffective dust collection. So this just rides on top of the material itself. Because I've got a couple little extra doodads, one extra one I guess, I've got an actual laser for sighting right there, and it interfered with the original clamps, replaced the Z clamps, so this was similar to this one, and everything just interfered with the router, so nothing really worked very well. I found, but using an original Z clamp and then going to one of those on the bottom, everything kind of fell into place. So a little bit of a hybrid. All the wiring is run inside of expandable mesh. It's really not needed, but I like the look better. And because I'm a slightly oversized, I think I'm 36 inches this way, I'm 30-inch-ish on the X. Had to run, of course, extensions and everything and I'm running dual end stops, so I had to get the extensions, everything in there. So I have a little bit of extra wiring hanging around, and everything going into the mesh kind of cleaned up the entire thing. My bit holders, of course, the gantry made for a really nice setup there. And the gantry's made in multiple pieces, so I mean, this was one piece plugs into a cavity I built specifically for it. I mean, everything was really done so I could build it at the shop I was at and then bring it home and put it together, because I like to keep as much of the sawdust there as I can. The backside, so of course, stores dust collection, down to a cyclone, little mini vacuum. I actually needed, I think, a more powerful vacuum because my shop vac does a little bit better job than this does. So the wiring, as this goes back and forth, this is protected by the braid, but it does kind of drag. So again, I've got a tape measure that I killed, so I just cut a piece of it, flipped it right upside down, and now I've got a nice smooth movement back and forth. I don't have to worry about that eventually wearing thin. The board itself, I'm running off a pin or 25, one of the MOSFETs, though, whichever one does the misting, I can't remember, to a relay underneath the table connected to 110. So everything as far as my dust collection and my router itself is actually controlled by the software also. So as soon as you run the program, kicks that pin on, relay opens up, I get power to here, everything else is turned on, so everything powers up. I put this on just so I can have my tablet plugged in here back here also, so I don't have to worry about running it dead on long prints. Or long cuts, sorry. Got a couple little safety switches, one on either side. So one feeds to the other one, and that controls the power to the entire system. So either one of my little either make noise or oh shit buttons, and everything dies. And of course power and everything else is run off of just a standard little diverter. My power supply puck is mounted underneath the table also, out of the way. Everything is tucked and stapled up underneath. So that takes most of the wiring. Got a little tray there for, I was using that for my storage for bits and pieces and all my bits, my wrenches, but I was always digging through them, so that's why now everything is mounted to the outside, so I'm not digging through anything anymore. I'm just be able to grab and go to work. And then of course running probes, so that one just kind of dangles free. You know, made that little holder on Tinkercad. It's just a really simple holder for a $5 or $10 Z probe. I found on Amazon. So of course hooks on there, runs through there, and then that just keeps it kind of out of the way. And then the vacuum table underneath, so that everything gets held down. I've seen a lot of people on vacuum tables talk about pulling vacuum through the MDF, which takes, I think, quite a bit of actual vacuum to make it happen, and I'm trying to do this cheap, so I'm doing it on bits and pieces. I did this with just a router table I made a while back, and so this is sealed off all the way underneath it, so it's a sealed box with just these holes through it to actually draw the vacuum through. And these 1/4-inch holes, even off a little teeny tiny shop vacuum, was little ones about yay big with a little half-gallon bucket, was enough that I could not physically move a piece of wood that was laying on there, no matter how hard I pushed on it. Ran a router bit into it, to a 1/2-inch router, handheld router, and really leaned into it and couldn't get it to move at all. So ton of vacuum through there, and still lets me seal, because I live in Florida, so I'm a high humidity area. So it lets me seal the actual MDF, so that I hopefully won't see a lot of changes with humidity. And then still, so I'm sealed off, so I couldn't pull vacuum through anyway, but now I can pull vacuum through and get the work done entirely and not have to worry about it. That's about it. So this one's set up for dual end stops, so I've got a little bit of extra wiring that runs through, but again, everything is going through there. So on this side of the table, it looks pretty neat. So you get on the back. I was going to tuck everything up nice and neat, and I've got some dangling wires because I do have extensions, so I've got more wire than I need in some aspects. But I haven't really cared enough about it to do it. But I will end up eventually tightening all this up so everything stays right up here behind the board. We don't have to worry about it so much. But that's the way I did my table. That's the way I ran my wiring. So far, it's worked pretty well. I've gotten surprisingly good consistency out of this thing. That I can run the program, I can leave it, I can come back the next day, I can run the same program, and it will just draw right on top of each other. Previously, I was working on an X-Carve machine that has a few miles on it, and running the same piece back to back, without any downtime whatsoever, resulted in two slightly different pieces. And this one, I can leave it, I can power it down, I can power it back up. As long as the zero is set in the right place, I will get the exact same piece twice in a row, 3 times in a row. So I'm actually pretty impressed with it. So anyway, that's how everything was built. But all on MDF except for my legs, they're 2x4s. And then of course my shelf here is just some crappy plywood. And then casters off of Amazon. Really like the style that actually flip down entirely. So right now it's totally on the floor, and then step it down on all 4 corners, and then I can rotate it around. So anyway, that is my pre-mill.